Okay, so hi everybody. My name is Arbi. I come from Tirana. Just to put a little bit of perspective on you. I mean, I'm sure that of you don't have a clear idea where Tirana is and what Tirana is. But Tirana is a city. I'll tell you a bit just shortly. The city I grew up is the one on the right, the one with more colors. As you can notice, this is the center, and very little far further away from the center, the city finishes. This is the city I grew up. Was about 200,000 people. And most of my childhood, until 91, 92, was actually spent on queues, waiting for bread, for kerosene, for oil, for 5 eggs a week, and all that. So the city was about 200,000 people. It had altogether about 17 cars. Only the Politburo of the political party could actually own a car in the city. So from the perspective of modern planning, was a nice city to walk by. The city we got to run about a year and a half ago, when I became deputy mayor, joining the team of the mayor, is the one on the right, the same center, but the city, you can't see the finish anymore. It's about 1 million people, and we have about 200,000 cars in the city now. So a growth that has happened in less than 20 years in terms of urban development, most of it unplanned, which creates to you the moment that you get the job, an amazing amount of challenges. So where do you start from? This is a little bit how traffic looked like. Picture on the corner, waste, spaces of where kids could play, or spaces in neighborhoods, public spaces, public areas in the city. So which was the thing from where we could start from? So this is July 2015. And one of the topics that came up, showed itself to us, was nurseries. Tirana had 32 nurseries where about 3,600 kids, children go. This is 0 to 3. And basically they are, back in the day, dilapidated, as you can see the pictures. The mayor has a meeting and says, we need to figure out a way to fix them until September. We have the bureaucrats we found in the office. They have a separate meeting, and they come and said, we can do that in a year and a half. We need to first plan the cost of repairing them, convene a city budget meeting, change the budget, then tender the processes, and then go on. It's going to take about a year and a half or two. He said, I was clear in the meeting. I want them to figure out a way how we can fix the kindergarten by September. So how do we find a solution to this issue? How can we make sure that we can fix kindergartens for kids in a month and a half? So we started making calls, and we invited people to adopt a kindergarten. So we had 32 different businesses, companies, individuals adopt a kindergarten and start to repair them. So in about, actually 45 days, we got 32 kindergartens fixed. And we moved basically from this to this in about 2 months. And the response we got from that was amazing, not just from the kindergartens or the parents that went to the kindergartens, but from the society as a whole. First, because it showed that an action like that can be done. Second, because it gave people, also the companies or individuals that participated in this process, but also parents or community, a positive sense that things can change in a quick moment, and people can come together to figure out a solution on how they can solve a problem that's communal. It also gave people a sense of trust that an institution can actually achieve things on their behalf if they join forces, playing a little bit with the concept of the sense of us that we've been discussing. A second challenge, quite quickly after that, was we wanted to build a playground for in our main park. So we came up with very quickly, and this is again early in our work, and we set up to create a kindergarten in the park. Funny enough, we got huge opposition from this. We got, in about 100 days that we worked for the park, about 72 protests. that were against making the park. These are the renders. This is not actually the park. These are the renders from the project. We got part of the opposition there physically trying to put the works down. Some of them even armed. 100 days after the park is actually finished. This is actually a picture from the park. This is not a render anymore. This is actually the park finished. Huge amount of people showing up again in the events of the park. Kids playing. Again, the same change we noticed. The response in people when they actually saw the things happening was unprecedented, at least in our perspective, in terms of positivity and in terms of feeling that they owned somehow the park, the kids' park, and that they were willing to protect it in a way and defend it and then make it their own and make it an area that they could live around it. And it's packed from morning to night till a year and a bit after it's been opened. Now, a pattern started to create. I mean, I mentioned two, but there was 6 or 5 of those issues. First of all, we had certain issues that obviously needed some sort of a planning or a strategy. But part of the issue is that did we have the time to make that planning or strategy? We needed to act quickly. And so part of the agenda then was we acted with what you call no-regret interventions. So things that we had quite clear and made clear that it's common sense that they actually were good things. So we acted on them, saw how those played out, and then eventually out of those things playing out, we made actual thorough strategies. For example, from the kindergartens exercise, we're setting up now a big action, which took about 1.5 years to plan, of building 20 new schools through a PPP process in Albania, which will dramatically change the way schools are made. Through the idea of the kindergarten, the playground in the park, and the fight that we had around that. Now we're just finishing up last week the 15th playground in town, which have turned into areas that are not just a playground for kids to play, have turned into areas where the whole community congregates and are turning into small islands of pride for the community to feel that they belong and that their neighborhood, it's a nice place to be. We acted through light and quick and cheap interventions, things that we could do quickly and signal that change could happen. We let the city somehow invent themselves to create some sort of creativity. A lot of these interventions were done from young people living in those neighborhoods, and we gave them the tools to actually create those songs. We acted on solving the obvious problems first, and then leapfrogging to practice smart and up-to-date policies. Again, as I was saying, this is 3 different playgrounds that we learned from the first exercise, a little bit also using the PDIA process we've been discussing with Ricardo for quite a bit, and then jumping that to massive scale exercise for the whole city. The other big change was the issue with traffic in Tirana. The big debate was, what does it do? What do we do with traffic? How do we solve the problem? It's a problem that's been debated all over major cities. Again, a city that has grown in the last 20 years in an immense amount, and without the proper means to solve the traffic. About 17% of people move with a car, but they occupy all of the streets. So how can we create more spaces for people to walk or for people to use? So one of the things we did is we took one of the spaces that we already had, which is the main square in Tirana, the square I showed you in the very beginning, and we closed it off for a day. We called it the car-free day for the center of Tirana, and the amazing response again happened. Kids from all over the town with their parents jumped in the center and biking, skating, running. It signaled again that a center that was pedestrian, it's possible. People could see it, could feel it, and could experience it. So after a few of those events, in a way, the idea of a center that belonged to people, not to cars, started to grow into people. And that led to one of our big actions afterwards, which is a new project for a big pedestrian area in the center of the square. This is again the render from about a year and a half ago, where we started to, a year ago, we started to project the center with a big pedestrian area. And this is a picture taken the day before yesterday of how actually the center will be open as a pedestrian area in about 3-4 weeks from now. Reworked and opened as an area which will be open only for pedestrians and not anymore for cars. Again, the same cycle. We tested with the events. We saw that it grew into people. People felt that this was something that they wanted. We got public support for the project, and amazingly different from any other thing or most big works in Albania, which are very much bigly debated. This has gone extremely smooth until the finishing of the works without no major public debates around it. And people are hardly waiting for us to finish it to reinvade it hopefully. On a different topic again, waste, I mentioned in the beginning. The process of waste management in Albania has been a very backward process. The municipality has been in charge of picking waste. The waste goes to landfill, but we have never thought of it very structurally as a proper waste management strategy. But a lot of people don't even think about it as a process. They just think, oh, we just put the waste out there and then somebody takes them and the waste disappears. We wanted to get again people to understand the whole process and make them feel how this is important. So we started a set of days which we called Let's Clean Tirana Up, and we got people to get engaged in the action. Young people, kids, families in neighborhoods, and we started actions, a full day action of actually cleaning up Tirana. And these were all precursors to big actions that we took afterwards, which we created a joint company with the Municipality of Verona in Italy, which does now city cleanup and separated waste collection, which was like a big action in Albania. The amazing thing that happened is that because we went through this process before with kids and schools, now the kids have become like the waste separation police in households. They fight with their parents if the waste is not separated. And the process is going a lot smooth. Again, this is just the beginning. We just started a few months ago. But we noticed that a sense of the necessity of this happening has changed, not just in society, not just from the police perspective, but has been inserted into the system, and people are accepting it as something that it's necessary and that will eventually happen. So we got then afterwards new bins which are separated. You can see the greens and the blues for recycled waste and non-recycled waste. Again, getting the kids informed, and the basic, in a way, conclusion that I wanted to make is that quite often what you hear in discussions and from what I came and from also from different consultants that you come, it's like you need a plan, a thorough strategy, and a long, well-planned, very big written strategy on how you act. Quite often when you're in office, and especially when you're in office in cities, you don't have the time for that. The city is there, city needs to run, you need to act. And obviously this does not substitute strategy and planning. But quite often you need to act, and then as you act, you strategize on it, and then see what works and what doesn't work, and then implement it. A lot of it is common sense, and that's why we call this an ode to common sense. Thank you.